describe California, the word is freedom to me.
California? I love it.
But in California, we have a problem. We're in our cars all the time.
Yes, I can't wait to do it. It'll be beautiful.
California has it all.
California highway, you're taking me back home, right back where I belong. Down from San Francisco, I feel so free again. I feel like me again. Too many city lights, too many barroom fights. I never thought it would end. So, California highway, you're taking me back home. You're taking me back home again. California highway.
Our film crew travels through the Hollywood Hills. The famous house-high letters once advertised a real estate boom in Los Angeles. There were 4 letters more originally. It read Hollywoodland. Today, the remaining 9 gigantic letters are a symbol of the entertainment metropolis of the world and its celluloid culture. The name Hollywood and the film industry have long given California an image of plastic smiles and phony facades. Even the world-famous Hollywood Bowl is considered to be super-dimensioned acoustic goo. This is disproven by the elite of the classical music world, who annually meet here during the Philharmonic summer season. One thing that makes California appealing is the giant picnic celebrated before each concert. Hollywood, once an ad gag for real estate speculators, today the trademark for celluloid illusions. Nowhere else is the history of California and its once blooming cultures to be better seen than in the 21 missions founded by Spanish monks along the Pacific coastline. Santa Barbara, the queen of the missions, was dedicated on St. Barbara's Day in 1785, built mainly by Indians under the direction of Franciscan monks. Franciscan Father Davies tells us about the mission's history.
Which number is this mission in the chain of the 21?
This is the 10th out of all the missions. The king of the missions is San Luis Rey, St. Louis, the king of France. This St. Barbara is not the queen, but because of its beauty and its location below the mountains, over the sea, it is named the queen of the missions. And as of 5 years ago, some study claimed it was the second most photographed place in all America.
Tell me, are here many graves of the old native Indians?
There are. Our records show that about 4,000 Indians were buried here. They did not use markers in those days.
Could you name me perhaps one of the last, or maybe the last Indian who is buried here at this cemetery?
I believe it was 1952, Tomás Ignacio de Aquino. And this is also the home for all the Franciscans of the western states of America who are sick, who are getting old, who are retired and need special help.
The fathers taught more than the catechism to the Indians who lived here. They were taught how to read and write, agriculture, handcrafts, and animal husbandry. The missions became religious and economic centers, later growing into cities. They also set a typically Californian style in architecture. But what was California's Indian history like? The first Americans arrived as nomadic hunters crossing the Bering Straits down into California. The Southwest Museum in Los Angeles reconstructs early Indian history. They came down through the valleys as small bands of hunters, nomads who left no traces. Archaeological traces of Indian history and settlement in California are hardly older than 1,000 years. The so-called basket weaving and Anasazi Pueblo cultures were closely meshed in with their 3 main crops: corn, beans, and pumpkins. These cultures began to disintegrate and decline during a long drought in the 13th century. Centuries later, only decades before the Spanish arrived, the Navajo, Apache, and Athapascan Indians came to the Southwest, nomadic hunters. These were the Indians the Spanish met in California. Two different cultures collided. Unfortunately, the Franciscans' blooming culture and California feudalism gave way to the gold rush too soon. Although there were more attempts to bring culture to the Wild West, old wooden buildings in Monterey and San Diego remind us that the men and women who penetrated the wilderness with the Bible in one hand, gun in the other, were hardly able to relate to the gentle Franciscan culture and religion they found. It wasn't until much later that artists were attracted by the climate. Robert Louis Stevenson lived in Napa Valley, John Steinbeck in Monterey, and other writers in Sonoma Valley. Jack London, sailor, gold prospector, and writer of countless adventure novels. John Griffith London liked the Sonoma wine area so much that he built his Wolf's House here after his adventures were over. It burnt down under mysterious circumstances. Jack London lived out his last years in a new house. Mobile lifestyles, mobile creativity, and mobile spirits all give birth to mobile fantasies. The biggest particle accelerator in the world is to be found at the Stanford University. California's universities are the state's most important pillar of culture and education. Stanford is a typically American phenomenon, culture and private enterprise. Leland Stanford and his wife founded the university as a memorial to their only son who died at the age of 16. Stanford is one of the newer universities in the United States. Among other things, the Stanford Museum houses one of the most beautiful collections of Rodin's works. Among those, we find the bust of composer Hector Berlioz. The university library contains over 4.5 million books. Leland Stanford, railroad builder, financier, senator, and California governor. His wife, Jane Eliza Lathrop Stanford. And the only son who died at an early age, Leland Stanford Jr. These golden spikes connected the first transcontinental railroad. These pictures by a German painter from Dusseldorf also hang in the museum. The artist's famous landscape paintings helped make California known to the East Coast. The artist, immigrant, adventurer, and Western pioneer Albert Bierstadt. A century of art and research. Even bicycling is as popular now as it was then. Stanford, one of America's most advanced universities today. California is an open-air stage for creative self-expression.
Lauren, the people in Europe and America know you best and well through the television series Bonanza. Do you enjoy also working in film and theater?
As a matter of fact, 2 weeks from now, I go to Florida to make a film. I have been working in the theater for many years. My first entrance into this business was through the theater. I've been on Broadway. I've been in the Canadian theater. I played Shakespeare, played all the classics. I think maybe about 10 or 12 Shakespearean plays. Many of the classics, the old classics, the new classics, the modern plays. And I was one of the founders of a theater in Canada, which we call Jupiter Theater. Orson Welles had Mercury Theater. We thought Jupiter would be a little higher, better. And so I've been connected with the theater most of my life.
Did you ever play a role of an athlete or a sportsman?
No, not really. I guess the role that I played most as an athlete was getting on and off my horse in Bonanza.
San Francisco was long California's culture and theater capital, an advantage Los Angeles is now starting to catch up on. The team visits a theater rehearsal on Sunset Boulevard. A few of LA's thousands of actors, many jobless, rehearse a quick-witted comedy. Young actors and actresses continually fly to Hollywood like moths to a flame, or get caught up in its web of nostalgia. Everybody struggles to be discovered. After all, Hollywood is still the world's most powerful media market, where the switches are being thrown for cable and video futures. Still, the dream and illusion factory has its own share of crises. Yesterday, decisions for making movies were made by studio bosses and film freaks. Today, smooth managers from the conglomerates make the decisions and shove the responsibility off onto others. Most lack the earlier pioneering spirit. Will Hollywood become a celluloid mummy with all its crises of creativity?
No. Money from the gasoline station.
Women behind bars. Scenes presented during a press conference treat of the lives, fates, and asocial behavior of women brought behind bars by murder, theft, and drugs. Women guarded by other sadistic women.
Fight! What do you think? I'm sticking around on a conquer the rest of my life? You gotta buy your way to the top, and I need that money to buy my way out! Yeah! Some of those tired legs, and I'm fat!
One can hardly see the industry problems looking around Hollywood today. The facades from the 50s have hardly changed. The Los Angeles Ballet performs in the old Pantages Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. The old patterns in music, film, and television still function. But the competition is getting harder every day.
George Chakiris, you became famous worldwide with the musical West Side Story. Do you think the West Side Story set a new trend in choreography in film?
I think West Side Story did set a new trend in choreography. Well, Jerome Robbins, who was the choreographer, is, in my opinion, a genius. But more than film, because there have not been so many film musicals made since West Side Story, I think the strongest impact was in the theater.
What about all the new dances like breakdancing, popping? Are you involved in that?
I don't know how to do it. I love to watch it. I think the kids who do it are sensational, but I'd be afraid to try it. I wouldn't want to break my back doing it, you know?
Yeah. America is known for its vast variety of dance types. Even aerobics and other kinds of exercises have dance elements. Has all this affected the professional dancer?
I don't think it's affected really the professional dancer. The country at large, I think, is very into physical fitness. And aerobics classes, I think, are more for, I'll say, the civilian population. I think primarily the jobs today exist, first of all, for the few who are lucky in the ballet world, of course, which is, I think, is the most difficult of the dance places for a dancer to exist. And here in California, I think it's basically music videos.
George Shakiris, you have spent most of your life in California, which makes you practically a native. Why do you live here?
Well, you just look around and you see the blue sky, the wonderful warm sun, this great view, everything. I've always loved California. I think it's a great place.
Thank you.
The road leads straight across the desert to Death Valley Junction. Even coyotes and buzzards avoid this place. We pulled into a parking lot and were surprised by what we saw. We were expecting anything but an opera house in the middle of the desert. Martha Beckett is a New York ballerina now playing in the world's loneliest opera house in the middle of Death Valley. She made all the decorations and even painted the ceiling and wall murals herself.
Characters?
Yes, I did.
I'm sure this is Wotan.
That's Wotan, and that's Amneris on the elephant from Aida. Payachi in the corner.
How does a dancer keep her fantasy and creativity in an area like this?
How can you keep your creative feedback here in this isolated place called Death Valley Junction?
Well, many people ask me that. Because it is isolated is why I can get my creative feedback. My inspiration is not bombarded by other people's inspiration. The city, I have all kinds of bombardments. Out here, it's like an empty canvas.
We say goodbye to the unexpected, to prima ballerina Martha Beckett and her Amargosa Opera House in the desert. You won't find so much creativity and fantasy anywhere else in the United States. California's eternal sun seems to support the arts and demands some sort of a show. What results is usually much more casual and often more real than anywhere else. We fly along the coast over Santa Monica towards Beverly Hills. This glass building is called the Blue Whale. It's the Design and Graphics Center of Los Angeles. Concrete supports on the Transamerica building in San Francisco show that America's architects are still as creative as ever. The The old Wells Fargo name stands in subtle wealth next to old and new Art Deco, the glass architecture of the Warner Brothers building, and the Pan Pacific Auditorium. One of California's most fascinating churches is the Crystal Cathedral in Garden Grove. It's an ultra-modern building. Its architecture works with cross supports and mirror effects. During the Americanization of California, East Coast styles were imitated. Before that, the California mission style predominated. Many old buildings still stand mute witness to the Spanish presence in California. Chicano art stresses feelings. It doesn't speak, it screams. Many of the buildings along LA's Wilshire Boulevard are now Art Deco monuments. And here is one of Louis Kahn's architectonic constructions, the famous Salk Institute in San Diego. 4 Nobel Prize winners work here, especially in cancer research. California's northern and southern climates have had a visible impact on the culture and art of this huge state on America's west coast. Still, we have to stress the unusual variety of California's institutes of education, especially its universities. This is the University of San Diego's library. These fantastic figures are the Watts Towers built by Simon Rodia, an extreme example of fantastic do-it-yourself architecture from the garbage dump. Simon Rodia erected these grotesque towers out of shreds, barbed wire, shells, and whatever else in 30 years of detailed labor. The Cabazon monster, a giant dinosaur visible across half the desert. Of course, it houses a prehistoric museum. These auto spiders give you an idea of the variety in California art. Futuristic glass buildings are a reminder of the turn of the century. Art and culture have no fixed patterns in California. The only constants are flexibility and change. Artistic eclecticism is the thing here. Light, color, the car culture and smog, paradise and confusion, plastic, illusion and smiles. This is the California backdrop, which has its ugliness as well as its traditional beauty. Like everywhere else, the environment molded art in California, but the climate here served to magnify it all, the beautiful and the ugly.